In an instant, the lights go out, not just in your room or your city, but everywhere. A total blackout. No warning, no end in sight. Millions of people suddenly cut off, isolated, facing the unknown. For most of human history, we've lived without electricity, but this time, the world is different. We're bound to the grid, and when it falls, everything falls. Everything we know is shaped by the reality we see. But what if there was more? What if the impossible wasn't? Welcome to Just Imagine, the place where we discover the unknown, where the only limit is what we dare to dream. Imagine you're scrolling through your phone, a normal evening, and then the lights go out. Not just in the room you're in, but in the streets outside. The buildings, the entire neighborhood. You might think it's just a glitch, maybe a breaker went down, or there's a temporary blackout. In the first few moments, people reach for their phones, for their laptops, expecting updates or explanations, but there's nothing. No Wi-Fi, no cell service. A creeping feeling of unease begins to set in. Still, maybe it's just local, a neighborhood issue, or a storm. But as they look out at the dark horizon, a sense of uncertainty grows. Rumors spread quickly. Some say it's a citywide blackout, others guess it might be larger, a regional problem, or worse. People start to realize that it's more than just an isolated outage. But how much more? No one can be sure. And then, the silence sinks in. The eerie, overwhelming silence of a world suddenly disconnected. At hospitals, the stakes are instantly life or death. Staff work frantically, relying on backup generators to keep patients alive. But those generators only have limited fuel, and not every machine can be powered. In intensive care units, doctors make split-second decisions, prioritizing life support for those most at risk. Critical care patients are the first to face the true danger of this outage. Without electricity, the life-saving machines they rely on will stop, and the hospital's supply of fuel and medical oxygen won't last forever. In high-rises around the world, people find themselves stuck in elevators. For those caught between floors, claustrophobia and fear take hold fast. With no phone signal, no ventilation, and no rescue in sight, the minutes begin to feel like hours. In factories and manufacturing plants, automated lines grind to an unexpected stop. Robots freeze mid-task. Assembly lines filled with unfinished products are abandoned. And in plants handling hazardous materials, the sudden lack of control becomes dangerous. Without power, once precise, safe operations turn volatile. In warehouses and distribution centers, the disruption is instant. Everything from inventory systems to loading docks depends on electricity. Packages can't be tracked, shipments can't go out, and trucks run on empty with no way to refuel. The veins of global supply lines clog in a matter of minutes. Subways and electric trains come to an abrupt halt, leaving hundreds, even thousands, stranded underground. The emergency lighting provides only a faint glow, and with no way out, those trapped face a disorienting, nerve-wracking wait. In the narrow confines of tunnels, evacuation is slow, dangerous, and uncertain. In airports, the power loss spreads chaos instantly. Runway lights vanish, baggage systems stop, and security checkpoints shut down. Planes preparing for takeoff are grounded, and those who just landed find themselves stranded with no guidance. Passengers flood to the information desks, but in this silence, there are no answers. Meanwhile, for planes already in the air, the risks are mounting. Air traffic control is silent, and high-traffic airports are left in darkness. With no coordination, pilots must navigate a dangerous descent, hoping to avoid collision with other aircraft converging on the same airports. High-frequency locations face congestion, and pilots are left to make high-stakes decisions, often in the dark. In these first minutes, the world has transformed into something unknown, a place of silence, chaos, and growing fear. This is the beginning of a world without power. In the first hour, the world begins to unravel. Intersections freeze as traffic lights go dark. Subways halt mid-journey, leaving thousands stranded in tunnels, unable to see where they are or where they're going. Those on foot try to push their way through streets, but with cars blocking the way and no clear sense of direction, movement becomes impossible. People pour into streets and public spaces, desperate for information. They cling to any explanation that makes sense. Some say it's a cyber attack. Others whisper about a massive natural disaster. Rumors ripple through the crowd, each one more alarming than the last. With no official information, speculation feeds fear, and in crowded urban areas, panic is quick to follow. In densely populated areas, the lack of information quickly turns to chaos. People are unsure of where to go, where to find safety, and whom to trust. As crowds grow, the streets become dense with worry and desperation. Fear takes hold, and the unease starts to spread. Inside businesses and offices, data centers and servers begin to fail. While a few have emergency power, many can't run without the grid for long. Businesses reliant on data storage find themselves on the edge of disaster, with years' worth of critical information, transactions, customer records, financial data fading into darkness. As systems go offline, entire industries face the unthinkable. The world's financial markets, built on millions of transactions a second, grind to a halt. With trading platforms down and no way to access funds, confusion turns to panic. Businesses have no way to track investments or manage portfolios, and the global economy freezes in an instant. In chemical plants, the risk is more than just financial. It's a matter of survival. These facilities, handling hazardous materials, depend on precise temperature and pressure control. Without power, cooling systems shut down, and volatile chemicals start to destabilize. As heat builds and pressure rises, even a small mistake could lead to leaks, explosions, or toxic releases. For nuclear power plants, the stakes are even higher. As soon as the grid fails, reactors automatically shut down in a process known as a scram, halting the nuclear reaction in seconds. But even in shutdown, nuclear fuel rods generate enormous heat and need constant cooling. Backup diesel generators are activated to power the cooling systems, but these generators aren't built for long-term use. Their fuel supply is limited, and without additional support, they'll only last so long. Engineers know the risks. If the cooling systems fail, if even one backup generator runs out of fuel, the risk doesn't end with the reactor core. In the spent fuel pools, used nuclear fuel rods still emit heat. If cooling fails, these pools could start boiling, potentially releasing dangerous levels of radiation. With emergency response teams stretched thin, the threat of a catastrophic meltdown looms. As night descends, the city plunges into an uneasy darkness. With no streetlights, no headlights, and only the faint glow of flashlights, the streets feel unfamiliar, dangerous. People who are desperate for supplies start looting, breaking into stores. As the reality of a prolonged blackout begins to sink in, everywhere, anxiety grows. In the darkness, the world feels hostile. Neighbors, once friendly, become wary. The line between survival and desperation blurs, and as people brace for an uncertain future, they realize this outage may be just the beginning. In just 1 hour, society is already beginning to fracture. The systems we've relied on are gone, and with them, the fragile order of our world. As the first day drags on, the reality of the blackout begins to sink in. People head to grocery stores, hoping to stock up on essentials, but with the power still out, the atmosphere shifts from uneasy to desperate. People are recklessly looting grocery stores and grab whatever they can find and carry. Tensions flare as supplies dwindle, and clashes break out over food, water, and basic necessities. By now, transportation is also at a standstill. Gas pumps, reliant on electricity, are dead, leaving people stranded. Those who managed to buy extra fuel earlier find themselves hoarding it, and the streets fill with abandoned vehicles. Emergency response teams, stretched thin, struggle to navigate blocked roads and overwhelmed hospitals. As infrastructure crumbles, large cities become hotspots of confusion and danger. Without clear information, fear and uncertainty take hold. Psychological studies have shown that in the absence of leadership and structure, mistrust spreads quickly. Friends, neighbors, even family members begin to eye each other with suspicion. Every person, every movement feels like a potential threat in this growing world of scarcity. As the week wears on, survival becomes a singular focus. Grocery stores are empty, gas stations abandoned, and the systems that once kept our world in motion fall apart. Supply chains that transported food, medicine, and water collapse, especially in densely populated cities. For those trapped in urban centers, the idea of moving to rural areas starts to take hold as a last resort. In hospitals, the situation is even more grim. Emergency power is running low, and medical staff are forced to make impossible decisions. They treat only those they can, but with shortages in medicine, equipment, and water, more and more people are turned away. Mortality rates rise as desperation takes over. As basic resources vanish, people begin to feel the harsh realities of life without electricity. Sanitation collapses without functioning water systems, clean drinking water becomes rare, and food spoils without refrigeration. Illness spreads as malnutrition, contaminated water, and untreated injuries take their toll on the population. Outbreaks of diseases that were once rare return with a vengeance, creating a public health crisis that's beyond control. In densely populated areas, the lack of access to clean water, food, and medical supplies becomes a death sentence. Without functioning hospitals, refrigerated medicine, or life-sustaining technology, survival becomes a matter of sheer luck. The world we once knew, connected, thriving, and modern, is reduced to fragments. Society fractures and communities isolate. The progress of generations slips away as humanity faces a grim new reality. In just a matter of days, we've lost nearly everything we once relied on. This isn't a temporary setback. For many, it's the end of the line. Within weeks, the death toll mounts. Studies suggest that in scenarios like this, up to 50 to 60% of the global population could perish within a matter of months. In urban areas, where resources are most scarce, survival rates are even lower. And in the United States, projections are even more dire. The 2015 report by the U.S. Commission to assess the threat to the United States from electromagnetic pulse, EMP attack, warns that prolonged, widespread power loss could reduce the American population by as much as 90% within a year. Starvation, lack of medical care, unclean water, and the spread of infectious disease would combine to create an unprecedented mortality rate. Most deaths come from the breakdown of essential services. The lack of food and clean water leaves people weak and vulnerable. Without proper sanitation, disease runs rampant, and without access to critical medical treatments, once manageable illnesses become fatal. As the months turn into years, the world as we knew it is gone. In cities, once teeming with life, silence now reigns. Those who could leave have long since abandoned the towering buildings and broken roads, searching for a life away from the empty shells of civilization. Driven by survival, people migrate to rural areas, forming small communities near water sources, fertile land, and defensible spaces. These new settlements aren't built on convenience or comfort, but on necessity. People gather around rivers, lakes, and arable land, hoping to carve out a living from the natural world. Survival skills that were long forgotten make a comeback. People learn to live without the conveniences of modern life, relying instead on ancient methods of farming, hunting, and gathering. The tools and skills of past centuries are all that remain. In this new world, survival belongs to those who adapt to a pre-industrial way of life. Without human maintenance, cities quickly begin to decay. Within decades, structures that once symbolized human achievement are overtaken by nature. Studies on abandoned urban areas, like Chernobyl, show how quickly the natural world reclaims its space. Trees grow through asphalt, rivers carve new paths, and animals roam freely, adapting to an environment where human presence is only a memory. In these small, scattered communities, currency loses its meaning. With no banks, no digital accounts, and no way to value money, people turn to the barter system. Food, clothing, and tools become the currency of survival. Communities trade what they can produce, and valuable skills like farming, weaving, and toolmaking take on new importance. Much of our modern knowledge is lost, existing only in digital archives we can no longer access. The knowledge of the world that once fit in our pockets disappears. Schools, if they still operate, focus on survival skills. Oral traditions and hands-on lessons replace textbooks. What was once science and technology now becomes folk knowledge, passed down through stories and practice. As years pass, new generations are born into a reality vastly different from the one we once knew. They grow up without the conveniences of modern technology, without lights, without screens. They know only this world, simple, rough, bound to the cycles of nature. Their sense of reality is shaped by the life they've inherited. For them, stories of electricity, internet, and global travel are as distant as legends. The technology that once defined our existence becomes a relic of a lost world, a mystery they can only imagine. This new society is built on the basics: Food, water, shelter. Communities are small, isolated, self-reliant. The vast networks that once connected humanity are gone, and the future rests on what can be grown, crafted, or exchanged locally. We've returned to a life where survival means working the land, finding water, and depending on each other. For humanity, it's a reversion to the most fundamental way of living, a reality bound by natural rhythms and the strength of community. In just a few short years, the modern world has faded away. In its place, humanity rebuilds, not as it once was, but as it has to be. With the passing of years, the world has found a new equilibrium, though it looks nothing like the world we left behind. A long-term global power outage has set humanity back hundreds of years, stripping away the layers of technology and connectivity that once defined our lives. In this pre-industrial age, people survive by making do with what the earth provides. To maintain order, communities are forced to establish new forms of local governance. Charismatic, resourceful individuals emerge as leaders, guiding small groups with a focus on stability and resource sharing. Leadership is earned through resilience and skill rather than wealth or status, as new hierarchies form to keep these small societies intact. Over decades, isolated trade routes emerge, connecting small communities. Travel is done on foot, by bicycle, or with animal-drawn carts, and news from neighboring settlements arrives slowly. Knowledge, culture, and goods spread across these rugged paths, binding distant communities into small, isolated networks. Stories of the time before have become folklore, passed down through oral tradition. Children learn the basics of survival, skills for hunting, farming, and building shelter. The tales of electricity, machines, and distant lands become legends, remnants of a past that, to them, feels almost magical. Much of what once defined humanity's technological prowess is now forgotten. The knowledge we once took for granted is replaced by practical wisdom, passed down through generations. It's a slow, deliberate relearning of the world, starting from scratch. Without the global networks that once connected us, humanity reverts to a localized existence, rebuilding society as we once knew it. With factories, cities, and endless highways, would take centuries, if it's even possible at all. This fractured world, bound by footpaths and rivers, may never again reach the level of connection we lost. Our new world is slower, simpler, and infinitely smaller. The vastness of human civilization is reduced to fragments, isolated but resilient, and as each generation passes, the memory of the past dims further until it becomes little more than a story. For some, these fragments are all that's left, a reminder of what humanity was once capable of. And yet, without the power to bring these ideas to life, they remain nothing more than relics, symbols of a distant, almost mythological age. In a world where the lights never come back on, we return to the roots of humanity. Here, survival is raw, life is fragile, and community is our greatest strength. Electricity, though invisible and often taken for granted, was the thread that bound our world together. Without it, we face a question that challenges everything we once knew. In the end, would we find resilience or only ruins? What do you think? Is this how it would really unfold, or would things have taken a different turn? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your ideas. And if you enjoyed imagining the unimaginable, hit that like button and subscribe for more mind-bending scenarios. Until next time, keep imagining, because the future begins in our minds.